Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As Dean Prudera Hernandez said, I'm Dr. Eric Benjamin. I'm the interim vice president and provost of the Rockville campus of Montgomery College, and I would like to welcome you all to our panel today. What does it mean to be a Hispanic serving institution? And one of the things that I am so excited about is that this isn't about an affirmation that we reached a certain percentage of Latinx students at Montgomery College. What this is a commitment of Montgomery College, a commitment of the Montgomery College community to be intentional and unapologetic about ensuring that the Montgomery College mission applies to the Latinx community at Montgomery College and in the region, Montgomery County, and in the Washington, D.C. suburban region. So with that being said, let me turn the floor over to our moderator, Dean Sonia Pruneda Hernandez.
Thank you. And to get started, so I want to give a little brief history first, and then I want to introduce the panelists. So there's been a lot of questions about what is the HSI, what is our history. There's a task force. The Montgomery College has an HSI task force, and what is that? So to give a little background, I want to ensure that people know that the Latinos employees at MC have been doing a lot of work for many years. This is even before I even started in the 2000s. There has always been groups of Latinos that have been doing work, whether they were doing, looking at how to support our students, or they were doing clubs and organizations to support, like the Latino Student Club. So those efforts have been ongoing. For the HSI task force, it was a grassroots effort. And what that means is that those that you see here at the table and myself, with actually quite a few other Latinos, faculty, staff, employees, came together and said, we are now designated. What does that mean? And we came up with, we wanted some type of task force. We wanted to be able to gather together, and we wanted it to be more institutionalized than these little silos, is what I call them, and grassroots efforts. So a lot of us came together, did research, and it's not just Latinos. So we had others that are on the committee as well. We came together, there was a lot of research, and we submitted to the senior vice presidents and to the president, and they approved the HSI task force. That is how it came about. So it was really a grassroots effort of a lot of colleagues across campuses, across disciplines, and some that are not even faculty. There's a lot of different employees. And so I did want to give that background. So for the HSI task force, those that you see sitting here, myself, and a few others, were part of the actual initial gathering to request, submit a proposal for this HSI task force, and I'd like to introduce him. So Professor Henry Caballero is one of our panelists. He is actually now in the School of Education temporarily, but he comes from our ELAP program. Dr. Glenda Hernandez-Tittle, and she is from the School of Education. She does elementary, secondary, and she also does our ACEP program to put teachers into secondary classrooms here in MCPS. And Professor Karen Pender Martinez, who does a lot of research for us and gathers a lot of research and information for us, and she is from our business department. Am I correct? Okay. And then we have Director Carla Silvestre, who is from Community Engagement. She's the Director of Community Engagement. She does a lot of work with our actual community, has a lot of connections with our Latino, but not just Latino, with all communities externally. So that is our panel for today. So we're going to start, I'm going to ask questions, and different people are going to answer the questions. And our first one is, what we all want to know is really, what is an HSI?
Okay. And what an HSI is a designation that the college has sent its IPEDS data to the Department of Education, and we are 25% or more students who identify as Hispanic. That's our enrollment in credit-seeking courses. And so once you have sent your paperwork to the Department of Education and been certified as eligible, what you're eligible for is to apply for Department of Education grants under the Developing Hispanic Serving Institutions grant category, or Hispanic Serving Institutions Science, Technology, Engineering, or Math and Articulation grants, or HSI STEM grants. And these are big grants. They average over $500,000. So, yep, we are an HSI. In fact, here's our enrollment data, and basically the orange line, as you follow it across over the last 5 years, we have been over 25% Hispanic. We are now 28% Hispanic. It is now our largest demographic group. And so, yes, we are eligible to apply for these HSI grants.
So in addition to the official federal designation, I think that what does it mean to be an HSI? It's really an opportunity for us as a college to really reflect on how well we are serving the Latino community in Montgomery County. So this is all fine and dandy, the grant opportunities, but what are we doing? How well are we doing? And so that Sonia mentioned this task force that has been convened. I'll talk more about the focus groups that we're doing, but I wanted to emphasize, so the government says we're an HSI, but now it's up to us to really evaluate how well we are serving the community and how well we want to serve them in the future, because as you have all seen, the trends are that this community is quickly growing.
So I have the next question is actually to Carla and to Dr. Hernandez-Tittle. So what should an HSI mean to students, to MC employees, and the community? So 3 different ones. So here we are in HSI. What should it mean? It doesn't mean like we're doing it now, but what should it mean to the employees? What should it mean to our students? And then what does that mean to our community?
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about this from my perspective as someone who was an MC student. I'm an MC employee. I was also an MCPS student, but I'm also going to reference some things from Gina Garcia's book on what it should mean. Yes, right here. So I think that students and faculty should be able to see themselves in the people around them, whether it's their colleagues, their peers, faculty, leadership, right? Representation matters. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is hearing our language, really celebrating multilingualism. That historically has not been celebrated. I think we're seeing a little bit of that now, but are the signs in more than just one language? Do we celebrate? Do we give safe spaces for individuals to speak the language that they feel comfortable in, or their native language? In our case, Spanish, but it's not solely Spanish. So I think that's one piece of it. When I walk into the classroom as a student or as faculty, I really want to, as an HSI, really I think all colleges, but particularly as an HSI, does the curriculum reflect perspectives from my history, my people? Does the pedagogy reflect that our instructors know that we should be doing exploratory learning, collaborative learning? So that's the second piece, right? Where we walk in, what we see, what we hear. But I think a third piece, which is the most important piece, is do we see an ongoing commitment from the institution to continue to interrogate itself and reflect itself in our practices? Right? We are changing, we're changing in so many ways. How can we best serve our students, our community, if we're not willing to learn or go deeper than we have traditionally to really look, in this case, at the Latino community and see what the real needs are? And is the institution committed to being intentional and making some sometimes radical changes and taking us where we should be. So I think that's what an HSI should be. I'm really excited about the opportunities here at MC and look forward to seeing our continued growth and highlighting and stepping up to the serving part of that title.
And then in terms of the community, and to follow up on what I said about what we make of this designation, as a part of the HSI task force, we are doing focus groups with the community. So we have a focus group with ACES Latino students to get their perspective. We have a focus group with the Latino Child Care Association. These are mostly women that have taken child development courses through Montgomery College to get their experiences. And again, it's what are we doing well and what can we improve to serve you? We are doing a focus group with Identity Inc., which is a Latino serving nonprofit with their student clients and also their staff. All of their staff are Latino. Majority of them are MC students themselves that have not completed their associate's degree. So kind of the employee perspective, but also the student and client perspective. And we're also doing focus groups with Hispanic Chamber of Commerce from a Latino business perspective, and some of our ESOL students through workforce development. You know, we have thousands and thousands of Latinos taking ESOL, English as a second language classes at Montgomery College. I think that we have to really reflect on, did we get to 25% or 28% intentionally? Or did it just happen because the MCPS population is 32% and it's a natural progression to the next step, Montgomery College? Were we intentional in recruiting and retaining and graduating Latino students, or did it just happen? So access continues to be a huge, I think if the community, if I'm predicting what the focus groups will tell us and what I think it should mean for the community, I think access will continue to be a huge area of focus for the college. A sense of belonging. I mean, I know that our surveys say that our students feel like they belong here, but are we seeing them for who they are? Okay. I wanted, we are all different, of course, but do we value, do we recognize, do we celebrate the differences that we bring to the classroom? We say we're a diverse institution, but what do we do about that? How do we celebrate our diversity besides a Heritage Month activity once in a while? And really to what Glenda said about valuing what we bring and helping with identity development. I wanted to share that I went to Florida State University, which, believe it or not, was a majority white institution in the 90s. I did not know another Latino student on a campus of 60,000 students. And I had a professor who found out that I was from Guatemala, gave me a book of an indigenous Guatemalan woman, the Rigoberta Menchú book. Mm-hmm. That book changed my life. I am here today as Carla Silvestre because of the awareness and identity development that book triggered in me. So I could have gone through Florida State and graduated and gotten my degree, but that faculty member reaching out and saying, hey, I know you are Guatemalan. I know what you're bringing to, I know your story. You don't know your story yet. You don't know your history. Let me give you this book so that you can begin to become more aware of who you are and use your identity as empowerment. So I think that there's the educational outcomes about getting your degree, but there's also that empowerment work that is so linked to identity and understanding who we are, where our people came from, and where we're going, that is equally important as a higher education institution that is so proud of the diversity of our student body here at MC.
So, and I think this was a big discussion even when we were just meeting, that what is it really and what do we provide? And so I shared a little bit about my background. I actually grew up in Washington State, Eastern Washington. There's a lot of Mexicans. We're Mexican-American, but they call us Mexicans. Sometimes as I grew up, it was a bad word. identity plays a huge role in us. And it wasn't until I got to college that you could actually use the word and be proud of it. I think that's really important. We don't know what our students are going through in their everyday lived experiences or what their families go through. Going to an institution that had, it's now called the Latino Association, but back then, because the majority were Mexicans, it's what it was called MECHA back then, Mexicano Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán. Does it matter that you speak the language? No. You are of this heritage. You don't have to speak it. Some of us, our families have been here for generations. And so that also, how do we embrace it if we don't speak that language? My son is going through that right now. How do I embrace this culture when I don't speak it and people say that's what you should do? And it's not. So this identity piece is critical for our students. We want them to come to Montgomery College and leave with a sense of identity, with knowing that they can be proud of their heritage, not having to hide it, pass for white. I know that I could if my name was changed like to Sharon or something, but I'm very proud of my name. You will hear me also always, I'm Sonia Pruneda Hernandez because that's the way that it's pronounced. Can I switch it? Sonia Pruneda Hernandez, it doesn't sound right to me. So I just want this, like I said, was a huge discussion in our groups. It's been, and I think it's important for everybody to know that sometimes college is where you're actually picking up your identity and you're actually trying to figure out who am I and can I be proud of this? Whether you are Latino, whether you are from another culture. And that's critical. So when we say servingness, when you are hearing our Latino faculty, staff, employees say servingness, because it means more than a designation. We can't just be, we are an HSI. Well, what are we doing about it? Are we supporting those students in everything that they need and where they actually come from? Because our families actually are different. Families are extremely important to the Latino community. And so that sense of tying back to your family, even if you're here in college, is critical, and understanding that is important for anybody that works with these students. Anyways, I did say that I would give a little piece because I spoke to them and gave my some of my personal background and the importance of being in a community in college and finding my identity. Seeing it very different was critical, as was Carla's. So anyways, I get emotional just because it's something that runs very deep. So I will continue to ask questions, and this next one is for Professor Caballero. How is Montgomery College moving forward with this designation?
Okay, great. So if we can look at the next slide, and I'm going to be referring to information that we got from the book. But if we look at this slide, Dr. Garcia then identifies 4 categories of HSIs. And if you look at to the left, it talks about the outcomes for the Latino students. And across the bottom, we have how the organization reflects the Latino students. So we have these 4 categories, and all 4 categories represent HSIs, what we talked about before, having the 25% and getting the designation from the federal government. And but there are different ways that these organizations then go through. Not the process, but how they use the designation then for their institution, how they are identified. So if we look at the lower left-hand box, this is the institution that has the enrollment, but they're really not doing much about anything with student learning outcomes. They're not doing anything about identity or allowing students to explore any of those notions. And then if we go across the bottom to the right, this is the institution then that says, yes, we want to value these students, and they do quite a bit to enhance the student experience on campus. But still, the outcomes are not really the focus, or they're not high. If we go up to the next box, This is where the institution is focused on the outcomes and the learning and making sure that students, according to however it's defined, they complete, right? We know that there are ways to define how students complete, progress through programs, obtain the degrees, and all of those things. And so those institutions are focusing on moving students forward. Now, if we look up at the other box on the top right, this is where, and we've used, my colleagues and I have used this term before, serving. What does it mean to serve these students? And so you have the high learning outcomes, the high completion rates. And you also have the high emphasis or enhancing the validating of their culture, their identity, recognizing who the students are. And so Dr. Garcia mentions in her book that the path to that serving is a challenging path. We have to ask those difficult questions that we've been talking about. Where are we as an institution? Where do we want to go? And the role of the task force in all of this is to look at data that we have here in-house, to ask these questions, to conduct focus groups, to kind of see what kind of recommendations we can make so that MC can move forward. But definitely, I know that all of us in the room, we're interested in students, serving students. That's our goal at Montgomery College, and we want to serve them well. And so the focus of the task force is to provide some recommendations. But like I said before, Dr. Garcia mentions, it's not an easy path. It's going to be challenging. There will be some hard discussions, or you should have those discussions. It's an important part of growth in any organization. When I was talking with my colleagues yesterday when we were meeting, I thought we should have pressed the record button on that meeting because it was just, we had such, it was a great, we had a great discussion. And one of the things that, that comes up quite a bit when we have these kinds of graphs is like, okay, what do we see in all four quadrants? The word Latino, right? Is that going to leave any other students out? Is there going to be some kind of competition for resources? If we put this in a systems organization or through the lens of a systems mindset, then this comes to the idea that there's only so many resources, and it's one of those that the commoners have to fight over. Now, the way to remedy that, of course, is by making sure that the institution has priorities that align with the student populations to make sure that we are serving the most students that we can. And so to have those priorities, to make it understood that there is a commitment, we've talked about that, there is a commitment to serve all students, and by emphasizing, by focusing on the Latino students, we are also building other students up as well. Because these practices, just like with UDL, Universal Design, it benefits everyone. So I think I don't know if there's anything else that we could add to that.
I'd like to add, Dr. Garcia says that any of these are okay, being in any of one of these quadrants. And I think this week, Equity Week, as a collective, right, you're here and we have focus groups, we have the HSA task, but I think that as a collective, we have to ask ourselves, where do we want to be? Which quadrant do we want to identify with most and be most representative of? And the serving one is going to be the one that takes the most commitment and the most work. But I think that is where we are right now, really asking ourselves as a collective, right? It can't just be a couple of groups here and there. As a collective, we have to ask that question and have a unified answer to it so that we can work towards that goal.
And just as a little follow-up, because there was a lot of questions about this too. So I put out asking questions. What would people want to know, especially from our Latino community when we are discussing this? Here you have your colleagues that are going to be speaking. There's also been a lot of discussion on the employees. What does that really mean to the employees? Where are we at? And what does it mean to us? We've each spoken about the importance of seeing you want to see somebody that looks like you. When they pulled up they brought that banner because it's a Hispanic student. Nobody else has one, and we had to track it down to find it. But I think that's critical. It's important for people to see themselves, regardless of what color you are, who you are, what your ethnicity is. You want to be able to identify, because that brings a sense of belonging as well. Always notice in a room where people go, if it's a brand new room, people usually go to where they feel they're going to fit in, where you think you're going to belong. If it's a new room and it's a conference, you're trying to seek out and you're alone, where is that table that I belong? And so our students do the same. Where do they belong? I know many of us as faculty, as staff, as employees get a lot of, we end up being the translators, we end up being the support for the Latino students. So the question is then really is, what does this designation mean to employees? And I'm throwing this one out there because it was a new question. So.
Well, I have some data, of course, but you have some.
She's our data person.
I think
I was gonna start, but no, go ahead.
so.
Well-
She's going to present. Why don't you-
Yeah, so I'm just gonna actually, the way we put these in order is first to Glenda's point about how well are we serving, and if you can click for me, Sonia, onto our, this is our most recent data from the college's scorecard. This is fall 2021 semester pass rates, and if you click again, I'm afraid that I have highlighted for you that indeed the lowest pass rates are among our Hispanic students, lower than other demographic groups. Our next slide addresses where we're actually seeing some pipelines narrowing here in our STEM programs. And I see I've got Bo Chan on the line, so shout out to Bo who shared the dashboard where I was able to see we've got all kinds of Hispanic students in the pre-clinical nursing major. We have 41% Hispanic students in the pre-clinical diagnostic sonography major, but then in the students who are actually admitted to and enrolled in these majors, the percentages are substantially lower. So we're seeing the pipeline narrow even just at the, so the entry points to get into nursing, to get into sonography, some of the other health science majors here. And then, of course, the point that we heard about who are students seeing here at MC. This is the chart that comes from the HR STEM's document about the personnel profile. And yes, it's that little short gray bar that is our Hispanic faculty. It has hovered basically around 6% over the, this is how far the chart back goes, but the last 5 years, it's been like that for a number of years before as well. It's around 6%, while our students are 28% Hispanic.
And we had this discussion, Glenn and I had this discussion earlier about when we look at these charts and we start looking at the data, where MC is right now, and we know that we do need more Hispanic identifying professors to balance out where the student body is. But we talked about, I guess in the past, there's been quota systems that doesn't make us look good either, because it's like people are doing us a favor, and that's not what we're advocating for at all. Actually, Dr. Garcia mentions that there should be an effort to do recruiting, to find quality applicants. Everybody should be qualified. So we're not advocating just to promote people or bring people in that don't deserve to be at the table. We're talking about the people who are at the table, whatever nationality, whatever ethnicity, there should be a commitment to serving the Hispanic students. They don't have to be Hispanic professors to do that. But it would be great if the students come to the classroom and can identify with the faculty who are there. But we're not asking anybody to do any favors. All we're asking is that for there to be some equity, some par along the lines of the proportions of students relative to the faculty that we have here at Montgomery College.
and some greater efforts at recruitment and
Right.
welcoming folks like that.
I also want to connect the stories that we've heard from Carla and Sonia and this recruitment piece. So it's been 5-6% for quite some time. We're now at 28% Latino. We didn't get here overnight. So I do think that's something to think about. But if you listen to their stories, there was somebody there, right? There was somebody there. And when you look at mentoring research, it's that somebody that helps you, somebody who reached out to give a book, somebody who said, be proud of this. And the more we can commit to having faculty leadership that represents our students, in this case, 28% of our population, the more likely you're going to have these stories where people or students find themselves, where they find a path, where they find a mentor, and they believe they can go to graduate school. They believe they can,
Right.
reach their goals. So we are in that position. The college is in the position to empower the Latinos in our community, our students, by making a commitment to make a change with this data and to really have our students see more of more faculty, more leaderships who sound like them, who look like them. Carla and I talk about how going through MCPS, I never had Latino. We never had any Latino teachers. I went through MC. You went through MC?
No.
No. I came to Montgomery College. I also never had a Latino professor here at the college. And I can tell you that when I walk into a classroom or when I share with my students that I am from El Salvador, they really look at each other. I have to throw out some Spanish. I have to tell them exactly where I'm from for them to believe it. Because still today in 2023, as diverse as our county is, there is still such minimal representation. So I completely agree with the point that Henry was making, with the point that Dr. Garcia makes, that it's important to have individuals who are committed to equity and social justice, regardless of that background. At the same time, representation, visibility really is important as well.
And this is critical. I know there's been a lot of focus on like the faculty, but we have to look at our leadership as well. And we have to look across. We did, because I asked, so we have the data for the faculty. What is it across? Because we have directors, we have staff. It's not much better.
No, it's
So,
lower.
yeah.
It's lower.
So when we see that and then going up into actual leadership, it's even lower. The percentage of this is like 6%. It's way, way lower. And that says a lot. And so there are things when we talk about having these hard conversations, that's what it means, is literally sitting at the table and being able to say, like Henry said, we're not asking, hey, go bring a bunch of Latinos and just hire them. But there's a quote, and I'm going to quote him because he's in this room. He always says, when you're hiring, and not just to me, but to the other deans and chairs, but he always says, get all your most qualified people, do the interviews, and pick the best, most qualified person, and you've got it. When you're doing that, and it's actually a diverse candidate, wow, we get some minorities in there. We have Blacks, we have Latinos, we have Asians, and then you pick the best one. So which one is the highest qualified, which one? But this notion that they're not out there, whether they be Blacks, whether they be Latinos, whether they be Asians, Native Americans, we're out there. What are you doing to bring us in? And that's the question. The other mindset that I also have is we have 6% here in our college. Don't tell me you need to go recruit also for leadership. Why aren't we growing our own? That's one of my biggest ones. Where are we and why aren't we? We have staff, we have faculty, we have them everywhere. Why aren't we growing their own, whether they be Blacks, Latinos, Asians? Again, we have these percentages here. What can we do to grow our own?
I just wanted to add to that. A couple of weeks ago, one of our former students came to Montgomery College to bring her sister, who's now living in the United States, to come and study. And she went to the School of Education. Actually, she was looking for Glinda. And when she saw me, she's like, "Oh my gosh," because I was her professor for another course. And she's like, "Oh my gosh," and she started telling me all these things. That was 2015. Now she's in a graduate program, still in education for special ed. And I said, "Oh, great, whenever you finish, maybe you can come back and teach for MC." And she was like, "You think I can? You think I?" And I'm like, "Why not? Right? Why not? It's possible. It's possible." So just even giving them, anyone, the idea that it's possible for you to do those things is a big thing. For her, it was a big thing. It had never probably crossed her mind. And so I don't know, I just wanted to mention that.
We can really get into these conversations. So let me refocus back and ask the next one. So this is for all of you because it's supposed to be answered by all of you. So here we are. We've heard about what an HSI is. We're hearing about MC, knowing that we need to have some vulnerable, some tough, some hard conversations. Here's a question for each of you. What would you like to see as Montgomery College moves forward as a Hispanic serving institution? What would you like to see? No, you have read the books. All of you have done a lot of research. You've been part of this since the very beginning that we said we need to do something, and we all came together. What would you like to see as Montgomery College moves forward as a Hispanic serving institution?
I think for me is to institutionalize these efforts. We've had a lot of little things throughout the years. You all have been here many years, so you may have known of this effort or that effort. And oftentimes it's just the people that are around at the time that get together and do something, to legitimize, to welcome, to value culture and where we come from. And once those folks move on, that initiative moves on. So really, please listen to the focus groups because it would be a crime to go through this process of doing focus groups with the community and not really implementing some of the recommendations that they are telling us that they want to see. But then make it institutionalized, put some staff, put some funding behind it. Don't rely on the initiative of this staff here and that staff there to carry out these recommendations that you asked for. So that would be my hope, is that we put the money where what's the expression?
Where the mouth is?
Put your money where your mouth.
Write that one down.
American, just institutionalize our efforts here. Don't just rely on individuals.
Yeah, I'd like to give a couple of examples of that going way back. And also I think to acknowledge some of the individuals who have done this work before us. I know Evelyn Gonzalez. I don't know if any of you remember her. I was at the Tacoma Park campus for 15 years, and she was very involved with the Latino Student Union, and I remember helping her with that a couple of years. But when she left, that died down. That died down. And I can tell you, I only did it for a couple of years because it can feel very taxing. And I know a lot of you in this room can relate when I say, especially as a Black and brown individual or a minoritized individual, you feel the extra weight of having to lift up. And that's one of the reasons I didn't continue to do that work. Evelyn left, and the LSU, the Latino Student Union, was inactive for I don't know how long, right? And so if we go back to Carla's point, Sharon, I'm looking at you, and really institutionalizing this, it means really making it a priority and not just depending on one person who does this on the side sometimes without compensation, puts lots of extra work, and be thankful that they do it, but the institution is not really putting the support. You know, that's just one example. I know Henry, Sonia, you know, quite a few people, Hilda, were involved earlier than I was. And I just want to take the time to recognize that there's been a lot of work done. Once again, we are here, Equity Week, we are an HSI, a great opportunity to make a shift in some of these commitments.
I've been one of those folks doing this for 20 some years now. And so there's been beautiful work that we've done. You know, I organized the Mi Gente learning community that's had some lovely successes. But indeed, if we're trying to scale this, so it's not my 50 students, but it's, you know, our 500 or 5,000 students, I believe we've got to put in for those $500,000, $1 million grants, get staff hired to actually, this is their job to help to facilitate this, and you know, to fund faculty to have the time to actually prepare these activities and change their curricula and so on. You know, if we've been eligible to apply for those grants for 4 years, but we haven't applied yet, that's what I want to see next. Yeah.
I also want to recognize everyone here in the room who has come to this event. Those that are online, we know that there are people who are interested in moving things forward, as we saw in the 4 categories, right? I think we can all tell where MC is and where we need to go. But everyone in this room and those of us who are online are here to support. And so I just wanted to recognize that. You said, where do we want to see MC? I was involved in the global humanities, the global classrooms, I guess right before the pandemic, and then we switched to the pandemic. And there was an art professor that was also in that fellowship, and she was wanting to do murals with her students. And of course, with the global classrooms, you connect with a faculty member from another institution, and that institution was in El Salvador, where there's a lot of murals that the students do there. It was a very political type campus, and they were but you know, there's also murals here in the United States that also students, Latino students, have also been a part of. And to make sure that those kinds of connections, those kinds of ideas are also mentioned in our classrooms as well, that there has been a history and we're not starting from zero, but we're starting from somewhere that students can identify wherever they want, whether it's art or psychology or STEM classes that they fit in. Because when we talk about diversity, Montgomery College has diversity, equity, inclusion, and then the last one is belonging, right? That's gonna be a new initial added to this, okay? Belonging, because I think that that's important, that all of us feel a sense of belonging as a faculty member as well. That I can see my colleagues also supporting, and I can see people with my shared experiences, or maybe people with different experiences, but are willing to listen and are willing to give me a seat at the table.
Okay, so there's a lot of thoughts about where we should go. The big one has been what Carla mentioned, is really institutionalizing this, because we are siloed. There is an MC Latino Affinity Group. We do Cafecito con Colegas. If you ever want to join us, I send it out. You can have some Mexican hot chocolate and some El Salvadorian and Mexican bread, because those are our local bakeries. And we usually do that every other month. That sense of belonging also applies to the employees. And we started that to really bring people together for that sense of belonging. And sometimes I'm surprised with who comes, people that I never knew existed here at MC. And they found the flyer, somebody gave it to them. So that sense of belonging is really important. Not everybody feels it. And so with whether they be employees, whether they be students, and we want to cultivate that. They do belong here, and we want to support them. With that, there's been a lot of discussion about the funding. I like grants. I really like grants. And there is a big one that will be opening up. It is for developing HSI institutions. So do know that we, as a HSI task force, we are looking at that. It's a lot of work. They open it 2 months and they close it. But it's like $5 million over 5 years, so over a period of time. And so all the people that have been on this task force are doing a lot of work to support that. I also want to mention Nawal, Dean Nawal, because she is actually also working on a grant specifically for STEM for Latinos. So there is things that are happening, but again, we're all in little pockets. It's kind of siloed, and how do we bring that all together?
Sonia,
Yes.
just wanted to expand on that a little
Okay.
bit.
I like grants too. But I don't think we should wait for grants either.
Right, right.
And I think that's where we again question ourselves about our true commitment. We can wait for grants. We can do that big lift that it takes to put it all together, to manage it. Or we can decide that this is important enough for us that we're going to make it work somehow with grants or without grants.
And an analysis of how we're using our current budget. Are Latino students represented to the right proportion in all our programs? And if they're not, then why not? And what are we going to do about it?
And do you know any of those grants? They actually have a bigger commitment. Once they end, the institution must keep those going. So it's not a we receive it and it's a done once it's done. There has to be, but a commitment from the very beginning for our students, for, you know me, I'm always throwing, for the employees as well. We need to be able to see ourselves here. So the commitment is a big discussion among the Latinos employees here at MC. How can we support the college, but also ensure that our students and our population are receiving, you know, what they need and those supports that are needed. I do want to just mention a few things. The Hispanic Heritage Month, we will see it again. We're already planning for it, the MC Latino Affinity Group, for September 15th to October 15th. It is all volunteer work. All the people, and there was tons, Ramon de la Cruz, I mean, there's a whole bunch of people, all of Carla's office, with Yanita, with everybody has jumped in, literally all volunteer. This is not part of their jobs. And we want to ensure that this happens again because it's important to us. But the Cafecito con Colegas, you'll see a flyer like this. You're always welcome. We always have it in SV because it's a new building, and Glenda and I actually have access to those rooms and can actually book them. And so there's always hot chocolate, coffee, and fruit and pan dulce, because those are some of our traditional foods. You will get traditional Mexican bread. I have found a little Mexican bakery and our El Salvadorian bread. If I find more countries, I will get more. So you're always welcome to those. Anybody is always welcome to those. And it's just a place to really bring us together. And it's a casual networking type place. So I want to thank you, but I also want to say, everybody has their names. They all have MC emails. If you have questions, reach out to any of us, and we would be happy to answer them or work with you. We have a lot of colleagues across the college and across disciplines. So just feel free to reach out to us.